Hi, for this video we're going to solve a compound inequality. This particular compound inequality happens to be an AND inequality, which means that it has to be true for both equations. And inequalities can be written in two formats. One format is writing it like this, where it's saying that negative 3x minus 1 has to be greater than 5 and also less than or equal to 14. So we're looking for all values that I could plug in for x that would give me an output that's between 5 and 14. When you have an AND inequality, it has to be true for both statements. So an AND inequality can either be written in this format or it can be separated into two equations with the word AND in between. When you have it in this format, instead of separating it out causes more work, so it's easier just to actually solve it in this manner. So what we would do is we would add 1 to get rid of it in the middle, but because I have two other sides, I must add the 1 to both the left side and the right side. So my goal is to get x by itself in the middle. I don't want anything else with the x. So when we move anything from the middle, it has to be done to both the left and the right side also. So 5 plus 1 gives me 6. And so we would be left with the negative 3x, this cancels out, is less than or equal to 15. So x is still not completely alone in the middle. So what we want to do is do the opposite of multiplying, which is dividing. And so we're dividing by a negative 3. And recall that anytime we're dividing by a negative, we must change the inequalities. So with this, we would say that negative 2, we would switch it from less than to greater than. This cancels out, so we're just left with x in the middle. We must also remember to change the right side. And then we end up with negative 5. So what this is saying is that our values, all values of x that are between negative 2 not inclusive and negative 5 inclusive, would be the answer. And we can leave it like this, but it doesn't make sense on a number line. Like if you think about how this goes on a number line, negative 5 is going to be to the left of negative 2. So it doesn't make sense to leave it in this format. Typically with an AND inequality, we always use this, saying that we're starting with our lowest and ending with our highest. So a better way to write this solution would be to start with the lowest value and switch the signs and then end with the negative 2. So this is the best way of writing this. Even though this means the same thing, it's better to write it from smallest to largest. So with this, if we were to graph it, what we would do is we would put a closed circle at negative 5 and an open circle at negative 2, and so it's all values in between those two. And again, depending upon which course you are in, it's perfectly acceptable to leave your answer like this, but if you need to write it in set notation, you would just write it x such that negative 5 is less than or equal to x, which is also less than or negative 2. So really x has to be in between negative 5 inclusive and negative 2 not including it. If you are dealing with interval notation, you would just start from the left-hand side. So negative 5 is our lowest value, so that would be the lowest to the left. It includes it, so we would use a hard bracket. And then negative 2 is our end value that is acceptable, and we would use a soft bracket for this. As always, thanks for watching. Please continue to check out all of my other video content. If you have any questions or topics that you need covered that you don't see, please just let me know.